prepositional infinitive and appositive phrases in a clause. This is lesson 9 in the Architecture of Grammar. My name is Léandre Larouche. I'm the author of the Architecture of Grammar and the founder of Trivium Writing. In this video, we're going to go over a couple different types of phrases, but we're also going to be looking at certain types of phrases in a different way. In the past videos, we've been emphasizing phrases and we've been looking at them from the perspective of the part of speech that they are named after. But this is limiting, and we also need to look at these different types of phrases that can also enrich our writing. So it is true that a lot of the time the phrases, they are named after the part of speech, but sometimes they can play different roles in a sentence. And this is why at the beginning of this video series, I've said that we have parts of speech at one level, but parts of speech sometimes as words, they play different roles. So that's why we have the word roles. That's another level. Prepositional phrases, for example, can play the role of a noun, and they can also play the role of an adjective, and so they will go differently. They will be placed in a different location in the sentence. There are a lot of examples in the book, The Architecture of Grammar, so you can see these examples there. Now, we also have conjunctional phrases. Conjunction basically link clauses together, and a conjunctional phrase, they're very interesting because they can actually create style and they create a lot of logic. For example, one of the examples in the Architecture of Grammar is both Léandre and his girlfriend want to move in the penthouse on 7th Avenue. Something like that is approximate. But the both and the and, these are the conjunction phrase, and the reality is the conjunctional phrase, we have two words, but they're not together, they're separate. So we have one of the conjunction, and then we have the other words, and then we have the other conjunction. So they are oftentimes separate. So for example, neither Léandre nor his girlfriend, that's another example of a conjunctional phrase. Again, the conjunctions are separate. So what does that do? Well, the conjunctional phrases link clauses together, and essentially we have, well, it's not exactly the clauses, but it's linking different parts of the sentence together. It's showing a relationship between these. So in this case, Léandre and then his girlfriend, and these are different. Oftentimes these are phrases. So in a lot of cases, the conjunctions, they link clauses, but they can also link phrases as well, especially in the case of conjunctional phrases. Now moving on to the infinitive phrases. The infinitive is a type of verb that starts with to be, to eat, to drink, to buy. These are infinitive verbs, and an infinitive phrase is a phrase that has a verb in the infinitive form. Now, what's interesting about these infinitive phrases is that they can play the role of a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. And if they do play the role of a noun, they can play the role of a subject or an object. So these are the parts of speech, this level, and this is the level of the word role. So if we're looking at a noun, we have to ask ourselves, well, is this the subject or the object? Or in other words, is it the who or the what? Now there's another type of phrase that takes its name from the type of verb that that is at play in the phrase, and it's the gerund. And the gerund is a verb that finishes by ing. Charming, for example, is the example that I give in the Architecture of Grammar. So, and what's interesting about the gerund, while like many other phrases, it can be put at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of the sentence. So for example, charming the real estate agent, Léandre was able to get a deal. Or Léandre was able to get a deal, charming the real estate agent. So there are multiple ways that we can insert a gerund phrase in the sentence. Now finally, appositive phrases, they simply rename the who or the subject, if you will. So if I'm going to erase this and to give you a quick example, because this is a type of phrase that is not very mainstream or not very much used, but we have our who, and we have our what, and the appositive will go first and will be often with a comma. So it would be the writing coach, Léandre, and then we would go on with the sentence. So we're basically adding information, and this is something that we're going to see over the next video lessons. There are a lot of different ways, especially with punctuation, which we're going to cover in the next, lessons. But there are a lot of different ways to add more information, and so the writing coach, Léandre, and then we move on to with the rest of the sentence. So it's really adding information. So now go in lesson 9 of the architecture of grammar. Go through all the examples, go through the exercises, work on the exercises. I hope that this video was valuable, and I will see you in the next one.